Second Step is a research-based classroom curriculum developed by a committee for children in Washington, and it's designed to teach social skills and competency skills to students in the classroom. The way Mesa-Spring Valley is using it is funded through a special grant to boost school adjustment for kindergarten, first, second, and third grade students. And we use it in small groups where they come into a really child-friendly classroom or conference room with a trained aide who knows the curriculum, and they teach the lessons, 12 of them, 12 to 15 of the lessons over a 12-week period to students in kinder through third grade.
A typical Second Step lesson starts with me picking up the kids. I'll pick them up, usually 2 or 3 classrooms, depending of course how they're scheduled, and we walk over to my classroom, always staying together. We start off with an icebreaker, which is an opening game, which we try to base. I usually try to base it on whatever that day's lesson is going to be. For example, if that lesson is about taking turns, usually a game like Candyland or something like that is going to be good for taking turns or calming down. Just, you know, just you find a game based on what you're doing. And then we go over and I'll have my agenda on the board. So the kids can even follow along with what we're doing that day. Then I take the lesson cards and we go over the previous week, what we did the previous week. Then we go over what we're doing the current week. And once we do that, for the current lesson, we always do the role play. And the role play is the kids getting up. We go over to our little mini stage, wherever that may be in the room that day, and we act out and we talk about and we actually perform what that lesson is for the day. Gives the kids a chance to actually use the skills that we've been talking about. After we do that, we'll have an ending game of either something to reinforce the lesson, and maybe we'll pick up the game that we played in the beginning. Sometimes I'll do that, or sometimes it'll just be a totally different game. Then as I take them back to the classroom, one by one, we'll do a little ritual, which we do to drop each of the kids off with a high five or a handshake, and quietly remind them to walk quietly back into the classroom.
Learning the skills is part of what we're wanting them to do when they come in, and the skills are taught in 3 to 4 different units. But another really important part of that is actually establishing a real healthy, kind, supportive relationship with the Second Step aide. It's a combination of those two things, learning the skills and building that relationship, that has been shown year after year after year to build resilience in school children. They feel more connected, they feel safer, they feel more competent, and they do better in the classroom and out on the playground. The units that Second Step teaches, depending on which school your children attend, are either in 3 units or 4, and that's because they've just developed a 3rd generation new curriculum that's rolling out this year. The original curriculum that we've been using now for many years has 3 units of empathy, anger management, and impulse control all in one, which is really a problem-solving unit, and then emotion management or anger management and excitement and worried and any other strong emotion. Those 3 units, empathy, problem-solving, and anger management or emotion management, are the 3 original ones, and that's going to be taught through lesson cards and role plays and activities in small groups. No more than 4 students in a small group. At the new sites with the new curriculum, they've actually added a 4th unit called Activities for Learning or Skills for Learning, and that involves more of memory skills, listening skills, impulse control, focusing to learn, really school-based, classroom-based skills, trying to help young students learn how to be successful learners. And then they go on and do empathy and problem solving and emotion management as well.
What I had was a group of 1st graders, and in this group I had 2 1st graders who were very outspoken. They wanted to talk all the time, and they would interrupt every time someone would speak, and they were out interrupting each other for a while. And I had a 3rd one who barely spoke. He was very soft-spoken. He also took speech, and it took him a while to get out what he wanted to say and how he wanted to say it. And that left the other two rather impatient because they would try to finish his sentences or guess what he was going to say. So one of the things that I would really encourage was not only to try to get him to talking, but to get these two to understand we're going to kind of wait for him to say what he wants to say, you know, because what he has to say is important too. And what amazed me was by the end of by the end of our 12-week session, the two who were often outspoken were actually starting to encourage him to speak and telling each other, wait a minute, he's not done. You know, they even corrected me a couple times. Miss Maisha, he's not done yet. You know, and then he, in turn, was getting more and more confident speaking. And when we had his exit conference with his teacher said he's much more confident. He's starting to raise his hand so that he can give answers and, you know, just being much more confident speaking in class.
Problem-solving steps that we're going to go through are kind of like a recipe, and most of the students have baked something with mom or someone in the home, so they understand that there has to be certain ingredients, and I try to explain to them that we don't want to leave anything out, because then, for instance, if you were making cookies, if you forget to put the sugar in, it wouldn't taste good. Well, the same thing kind of applies with our problem-solving steps. If we forget something, it might not necessarily work out in the best way. I've had parents explain to me that when we've done some of the problem solving, to give the kids the option where they can walk away. One of the kids I'm thinking in particular, the mom said that she realized that he was not good at confronting some situations sometimes, and that he would rather either walk away or ignore the situation. And she wasn't sure if that was okay, and I explained to her that through the curriculum, we tell them that those are different options, that those are definitely okay. And she was very happy to hear that and see that we reinforced that with her son, which in turn gave him more confidence when he did problem solving. One of the lessons I really enjoy doing with the kids is this calming down strong feelings. And so I explained to them that this is Teresa and how she accidentally spilled some paint on her picture, but she's finding herself getting worried about this. So I talked to them about how, or the lesson is how we can calm down before we try to do some problem solving. And once again, as the picture shows, she's holding onto her tummy. And so I have the kids all stand up and they hold onto their tummy, and we practice doing the belly breathing. And we talk about how doing that belly breathing and taking those 3 deep breaths and exhaling all of that air, how that really helps them to calm down, to relax, and to be able to think, because now they've gotten a little bit of oxygen to their brain. And it's really interesting how the kids quickly learn that that really is a good technique for them. And probably the majority of the kids tell me that that is the one that they try initially, is as far as belly breathing.
This is actually one of my favorite stories to tell. This is one about Abby, and this video comes with the video. And what we have is Abby out in the park with some other kids, and they're playing marbles. And what she decides is she wants to play marbles. So she gets up, she walks over, and she grabs all the marbles and says, I want to play. And as she does that, all the other kids, they get really upset. You messed up our game. How could you do that? And they're screaming at her. At this point, she realized that probably wasn't such a good idea. So she goes over, and what she, at that point, has to do is decide. She's talking to herself out loud. And she's saying, I just want to play marbles. How come they're all yelling at me? I just, you know, innocently wanting to play marbles. So then she starts by remembering that she has to calm down now, because now she's getting upset. She's getting worried. She's having these fearful thoughts. So she has to get herself calm. She calms down. And then she thinks to solve her problem. I want to play marbles. Nobody asked me to play. What can I do now? What would be the best thing for me to do to get to play marbles with my friend? And so she goes through her solutions of, I could do this, I could do that. I could kick the marbles, but then of course nobody else could play. I could go over and apologize to them. I could ask an adult. But it runs through our problem solving steps of what's the problem, what are some solutions. With each solution, is it fair, is it safe, how might people feel about it, will it work? And then she chooses her solution. And what I like particularly about this video is it doesn't tell you what solution she chooses. The kids get to decide which solution they would like to choose. And then at that point, we discuss it, and then it gives the kids the power to choose themselves what solution they think is best.
Sometimes to reinforce a lesson, rather than just using the card, we might use a book. So for instance, I have the Child's World of Courage, and one of the things I really liked about this set of books is that these pictures in particular don't have the mouth. So oftentimes, depending on what the book says, so this one for instance talking about what is courage, and it goes through some of the different aspects or perspectives of courage, then I can ask the kids how they might feel in that situation. So for instance, this picture says going back on a bicycle after you have fallen, or I'm sorry, getting back on a bicycle after you have fallen off, that's courage. And then have the kids maybe show the expression of how they might feel if they had fallen off a bicycle. Another one from that set is self-control, and this one is really fun. This one is really fun because it stresses also what self-control is, and it's something that is not easy for any of us, but especially for the kinder through third students. One of the pages that I really like is more towards the back, where it talks about self-control means you really think about, or I'm sorry, self-control means you really think and decide what is right for you to do. So they show the two choices of the cake and the fruit, and I've had students actually weeks after we've talked about this book tell me how they're still struggling with that self-control to pick what's right. So I think that's really cute. We really try to take advantage of as many props as possible to make that half hour exciting and fun, and it's not just to sit down and listen to me talk. So one of the props that I like to use are fly swatters, and I have this one that it happens to be the figure of a hand. And one of the ways that, there's several ways we can use it, but one of the ways I like to use it is, for instance, when we're talking about things that bother us, maybe frustrate us or upset us, I will have these little plastic bugs out on the table, and then I'll have the kids each slap a bug and then tell the rest of the group what it is that bugs them, something that bothers them. Another way to use the prop is with our feeling posters. Have the kids come in and use the fly swatter to show a different emotion. So it could be they are slapping shy, or maybe they're slapping embarrassed, or maybe they're slapping afraid, and it just makes it fun for them. It makes it more engaging, and they have a good time, but at the same time having that body movement can hopefully get it to a place where it's more in their brains.
When we're setting up to do an icebreakers normally will set up what lesson we're learning for the day. And in the beginning, we talk a lot to the kids about understanding how do you feel, and how do you know how other people are feeling. And so we spend a lot of time looking at faces, happy, sad, upset. And this is one of my favorites, because what I do with these is I'll take them and I'll set them on the table, and I'll tell the kids, you hold this up. You can't look at it, so you don't know what it says, and we're going to have all the other kids make this face. And you try to decide what face the kids are making, how do they feel. So all the other kids are making this face while we're trying to decide what face they're making. And so when the children make the face, they get to guess, and they would guess like angry. And then they look and they go, oh, you guys were all surprised. And that gets the kids thinking about what others look like when they're making a particular face. And that helps kids to stay in tune with other people and what other people are doing. I have a parent who was a second grade parent who, after we got to the problem solving, I always give them a little book of all the problem solving steps. And there was something going on in the house with the older sibling, I think, who was in their teens. And the second grader goes and she whips out her book and she says, what is the problem here? Now, how are we going to solve this? And she reads the steps. And I got such a kick out of that, because the kids are listening and they're understanding and they're taking it home.
That also reminds me of a parent that was a little bit hesitant to have her son participate. And then I showed her the curriculum, and I showed her our problem solving steps and also our emotion management poster. And she said to me, wow, these are really skills that we all should have.
Pre and post surveys continually show that students who have the opportunity to participate in second step in small groups, in this design, small groups outside the classroom with a trained aide, do better in school, not only for the rest of that school year, but throughout their school career.